Hi, I'm Jade Marlin, and I'm excited to share with you my Theorist presentation, which I did on Neil Clark Warren. I thought that this project was really interesting, and I'm excited to share with you guys. So, Neil Clark Warren, the name probably sounds familiar to you because he is the founder of eHarmony, which is a very famous dating website. It was actually one of the first created to match people up with a compatible mate and hopefully lead to marriage. So, it was a little difficult finding just concrete research on his theory and how he actually counsels because he is such a prominent figure and a CEO of a company. So a lot of the research that I found was geared towards talking about eHarmony and interviews on his site. But through all the digging and watching some of his, he gave some sermons and some other videos and reading his books, I was able to piece together his theory and kind of what he believes about counseling. So he had a practicing center of counseling for about 35 years prior to going on his business venture of doing eHarmony. He is an expert on mate selection and has counseled thousands of patients on relationship issues at his private practice in Pasadena, California. And he's written about a dozen books on love, marriage, and emotional health. And he was the founder and CEO of eHarmony. He's not anymore. But I want to take you through an infographic that I made. I'm also going to upload it after the video as well so you can have it. But basically just what I'm going through might be a little difficult to see, but I'm talking about Neil Clark Warren. And first, I'm going to talk about eHarmony, which I thought was something really interesting about him, just a tidbit on him. But first, a little bit of background. He received his MDiv from Princeton Theological Seminary, so he is a believer, which plays a part into his ideology and his practices and methods. But he also received a PhD in clinical psychology from the University of Chicago, and he has a deep concern for the amount of divorces that take place in America and around the world. So part of the reason that he got into couples therapy is to hopefully, with this type of therapy, stop and end divorces. He knows that that's probably unlikely, but that's what he hopes to do, and hoped to find mate selections in eHarmony, which is really cool. But that kind of started because he has 3 daughters, and of all the people that he counseled, he knows how brutal it can be to go through a divorce, and he didn't want to see his little girls go through that. So that is a sweet way of how he kind of started doing this. But he's done plenty of research and trials on couples who have been divorced, couples with happy marriages, couples with okay marriages, and couples who are really struggling and hanging on by a last thread. So first, talking about eHarmony, it's an online dating website that matches men and women up to those who will be compatible with each other. Their mission is creating meaningful connections that lead to long-term love. They have an algorithm that helps couples be paired with about 29 dimensions of compatibility. So this is part of Warren's counseling theory, as he discovers and researches all these ways that people can be compatible with each other, and I'll talk about that later. And so all this lines up to an algorithm that they hope people will have successful marriages due to how they match people up. And they hope that it doesn't end in divorce. So that is a lot of what eHarmony strives to do, and what Warren strives to do in his counseling practice, is to not allow people to get divorced, that they'll be so compatible that they stay together and they can work through their problems and issues that they have. So getting into epistemology, which if you're following along on my infographic, it will be the next slide over, and I have a true or false question. True or false, Warren believes that opposites attract. The answer, he would say, is false. He believes that opposites do not attract. Well, they might the first part of a relationship or meeting, but they realize that they're not compatible enough to continue a relationship. So that's something really interesting, and he sometimes gets critiqued on and asked a lot of questions about. So in his epistemology, he has a Christian worldview that affects his beliefs tremendously and how he goes about to counsel people. He believes that marriage is a great thing and that it's ordained by God and created for all humans to enjoy. So we should work hard to keep our marriages intact if we are married. Not just so that we're surviving and going day to day and just like unhappy in a marriage, but he wants people to thrive. And while a lot of people say that chemistry and physical attraction is the most important part in a relationship, he argues that it is important, but it's not the only thing that makes a good marriage. He believes that it's important to have similarities and to be compatible. While he says that people will have long-term marital satisfaction when people look at qualities from the inside of a person, and their values, their heart, their character, and their personality all are things that you need to look at and ask if you can handle that, and if you are somewhat similar in that way, if you want to be loved well by that person. So in a sermon that he gave, actually, he talked about you can maximize your marriage if you are spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and morally healthy. So it's, again, talks about how it's beneficial if you are compatible. And one thing that I found really interesting is in Christian settings a lot, he shared how in order to have a good marriage, both partners need to be equally right with God, meaning that they need to be saved by Jesus Christ, and that they are constantly like confessing their sin to God. So I thought that was really cool, and brings in a lot of biblical counseling theories that we talk about, because he does pull straight from the Bible. He believes that, of course, if you are a believer, you can't have a healthy marriage if you're not right with God, and you won't be like show grace to other people if that isn't the case. So that's just a little bit about his epistemology and what he believes. So moving on to the anthropology section, he believes, I'm probably going to go through these really quickly, but he believes that all humans are created in the image of God, but they are fallen sinners, and so they do wrong because of sin, and so this plays out in our marriages and in our families, and leads to divorces at times. And so he's really trying to attack this problem, this like outward sin that's in our world. Although it can't be defeated without Christ coming back, he knows that he wants to do as much as he can with his gifts in couples counseling to hopefully help people get set up with the right person so that they don't divorce. But he also says that humans are created unique, and God makes everyone different. So as much as he wants people to be compatible, he knows that everyone has unique personalities, and so it's working through those and acknowledging that about others. That is what makes it what can be helpful in learning about your partner, so that you're not just saying the same, but you're being challenged by your partner as well. So a little bit of his methodology when counseling others. He would first ask the question, are you planning to stay with your partner for a lifetime? And so some of the things written about this question was, people were shocked. They were like, well, duh, of course we are. But some people hadn't really thought about it. They were like, because some people go into marriages thinking, well, if it turns wrong or turns out poorly, I can just leave. And so he shows that there needs to be a commitment to stay in the marriage right up front. And then after that, he wants to assess people's strengths and weaknesses. So he looks at their personality and their background. It's not necessarily free association that Warren practices during his counseling sessions. So people aren't just like laying on a couch, eyes closed, sharing about the deepness and darkness of their relationship with their partner. But it's both either the husband and the wife or the boyfriend or girlfriend, depending on what stage they're at in their relationship. And they come in and just share their problems, ways that they think that they get along well. And so Warren is really here. He's trying to see how they process information and really learn about their personality, their learning habits, their backgrounds, because he believes that all of those things will contribute to how they interact with each other and how they he can see, he's really good at assessing and been like, oh no, see that is your problem because you hide what you're thinking and you never tell your spouse. So that needs to change. And so he just assesses them. And he also does this on eHarmony. It is a 410 question test, I believe, that couples will take. And it assesses their compatibility, their strengths and weaknesses, and it puts people into a percentile. But if you were going into his office, he would give you a similar questionnaire, and it would be like around 100 questions that would assess that, as well as him just getting to know you. He really cares about his clients and the couples that he interacts with. He wants them to succeed. And so it's a lot of building trust and similar in a way. I wouldn't say he practices and agrees with everything in EFT, but he allows the couple and each person to share without interruption what's on their mind, kind of what they're thinking, but he'll ask simple questions like, how did this make you feel? Just so he can learn more and hopefully help and point out things that maybe the wife isn't understanding about the husband or the husband